Story 1. Not having responsibilities, enjoying the freedom to do whatever I wanted. Not having to cook, taking vacations at my parents' expense and sleeping in. Story 2. Being in the moment and always happy. Dancing or jumping in public without worrying about anything. Story 3. Playing outside until sunset, then coming inside for a dinner prepared by someone else. I don't even know what I really did for hours outside every day, but I was out there. My child doesn't go outside at all, despite my best efforts. Story 4. Everything just seemed brighter and more colorful. I felt I could hear the birds and experience the outdoors, I guess. It's like those allergy medicine commercials showing a black and white world before taking medication and then panning over to all the colors and smiles afterward. Waking up used to be exciting. Now it feels like waking up to go to work, spending money I don't want to spend, and pretending I still enjoy my hobbies. Story 5. Living affordably and having a stable life on $50,000 a year is challenging, especially considering that many believe a salary of $100,000 or more is necessary for a comfortable lifestyle, a figure that most people can only aspire to achieve. Story 6. Being able to jump out of swings. My favorite stuffed animal is Mr. Lion. My parents had to burn our stuffed animals for heat. I miss seeing my aunt. She visited when my dad was alive. Story 7. Nothing really, adult life is better. I didn't have a terrible childhood, but I don't miss it. Story 8. The ability to go outside and explore for hours was a cherished experience. Despite having a difficult childhood, I found solace in the tranquility of the woods and valued the time spent with neighbors. Story 9. The middle class was a time when people could still afford a home and enjoy nice things. I was a very blessed child, and everything seemed accessible to everyone, from water slides to amusement parks. Now, even those who are fortunate struggle to visit these places, which diminishes the experience. What were once venues for everyone to enjoy now cost $200 a day. Story 10. The sunny summer afternoons spent walking to my friend's house to play Nintendo Entertainment System and hang outside in his treehouse are the only times I truly miss. The long walk along the back streets, the feel of the hot sun, and the cool breeze made those moments special. From about 9 a.m. to noon on a summer day is still my favorite time to be outside. Story 11. Colorful ice cream trucks created a vibrant atmosphere. Watching the old Weather Channel with my grandma every morning brought comfort. The Fisher-Price dollhouse in white, pink, and blue was a cherished toy. I enjoyed playing with Legos and tracing letters in cursive at Christian school. Running outside all day with my friends and brothers. I felt a sense of freedom, even when saying goodbye as it got dark. The music of the 2000s and the old technology one grew up with, like BlackBerry phones and flip phones, remind me of those good times, even if I didn't realize it at the time. Story 12. Caring about things. After the decade we have experienced, caring takes significant effort now. It is easy to simply not care, and it is a pit I have had to consciously avoid falling into. Story 13. I miss being able to laugh with others to the point of pain, like actually being afraid you could die from laughing so hard. It was so wonderful to be around people who were ready to laugh, enjoying the carefree nature of it all. Laughing hard with friends at things we all found uncontrollably funny. As an adult, it's harder to have those moments. Spending time with friends and enjoying each other's company felt like there were endless possibilities to explore. Story 14. I used to fall off my bike, scrape my knee, and continue playing as if nothing happened. Now, if I sleep in an awkward position, my back hurts for 3 days. Story 15. Summer holidays, the 6 weeks off school, were blissful and seemed everlasting. They usually included a trip home to Ireland, which was always wonderful. Simple, beautiful pleasures. Story 16. Not being aware of finances, such as how much I have, how much I need, and how I can acquire more. Story 17. My 10-speed was a great bike, and I miss my aimless rides over small potholes and the ones that were filled in. Story 18. I do not have to worry about politics, or at least I feel like I don't need to. Trump has dominated the news cycle since I was 15. I am now 24 and tired of him. Story 19. I kind of miss the fun of calling someone on a landline, making small talk with the parent or relative who answers while the person you called for is found in the house. Then they pick up from another phone and yell, "I got it." And the parent or relative replies, "Okay, it was nice talking to you," before hanging up. Story 20. Not much of anything. I do not miss the intense pressure to perform, the harsh judgments at home, the lack of a safe space, or feeling as if I had no control or freedom. I love adulthood. All I ever wanted to be when I was a child was a free adult. Story 21. Carefree summer days roaming the town with friends and swimming at the lake are treasured memories. The songs and music evoke feelings of nostalgia. Hearing a 1970s song now transports me back to my early childhood like nothing else. Story 22. Things used to feel better, and I used to be happy more often than I am now. I don't remember the last time I felt truly happy. Ignorance is bliss. Story 23. All of the family I grew up with has passed away. Grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, and even my cousin are all gone. Only my 2 siblings and I are left. It is really disheartening. Story 24. Roaming the streets, parks, and forests for hours without anyone knowing where we were or what we were doing. Story 25. The number one thing I miss from childhood is freedom. It's not the freedom of the United States, but the freedom from bills and the constant exposure to the horrors of this world. Feels blasted everywhere. To those who never experienced it, life was so much freer and easier without social media and smartphones. I can't imagine being a child now. Dealing with a few bullies while growing up was hard enough. It must be 100 times worse now that everyone around the world can join in and target you. Story 26. Having many friends, I could see all of them at school every day. In the summer, we would hang out all day long. As an adult, I have friends, but I see them every few weeks or months. I miss my old group. Story 27. Simplicity. I remember my favorite activity each week was Saturday morning cartoons. My family didn't have cable, so I was eager to settle down and watch my favorite cartoons every Saturday. I hate to admit it because it seems silly, but I continued this tradition all the way into high school. Story 28. Playing Halo 2 split screen with my best friend, my brother, his best friend, and occasionally my father was a cherished experience. We would do this every weekend throughout an entire summer. It was the closest I ever felt to my brother and father. Story 29. Gaming and sitting in TeamSpeak all night with my buddies without worrying about money or coming to work tired. Story 30. Being genuinely happy. Just waking up Saturday mornings at 5 a.m. and jumping out of bed because it meant a whole day of my favorite cartoons followed by playing outside with my toys and imagination. The world was full of magic and fun. I haven't felt that way since I was 8 years old. Story 31. Freedom. I thought getting older would bring more, and in some ways it did, but I would trade it for the freedom that came with being a child again in an instant. Story 32. I did not have to worry about money. I heard my parents argue and talk about it, but it did not concern me. Story 33. Probably the 2 people who are not related to me by blood have taken better care of me and treated me like their own grandchild more than my actual grandparents ever did. They are the ones who ensured I could attend private schools and enjoy a really good childhood. They are simply kind and gentle. Story 34. I think being an adult can be difficult. The world is filled with uncertainty, and managing everyday tasks can be a challenge. For me, trying to stay afloat financially is one of my biggest challenges. Even though I came from a family where both my parents worked full-time jobs, we were not well off. My parents always tried to do their best to provide and shelter us from life's hidden difficulties that could be detrimental to our well-being as children. I miss being a child, as it was my parents' responsibility to provide for us and protect us from the negativity surrounding us. As an adult, it is now my responsibility to navigate this complex world. I worry greatly for my children, who are 11 and 12 years old, in today's environment. The times are much more challenging, and it seems scarier for their future. I am reminded daily of the differences between growing up in the 1980s and 1990s compared to now, and I hope my children grow up to be respectful, responsible adults with aspirations of their own. Story 35. Nap time. So many times I am sitting at my cubicle at work and think, you know, it sounds good right now? Oh nope. Story 36. When I was younger, I frequently visited my grandparents' country house. They had many trees and vegetables, and everything was clean. My grandfather even built a swing for me, and I loved playing on it. Years later, I returned to bury my cat, who passed away last year. My grandparents had stopped visiting often due to their age, and everything was different. There were no vegetables growing anymore, many trees had dried up, and the grass had grown significantly, especially under the swing, making it impossible to play. I was already crying for my cat, but I am certain I would have still cried out of nostalgia. English is not my first language. Story 37. The pure joy of having no responsibilities. No bills, no stress, just cartoons, snacks, and believing that staying up past 9 p.m. was exciting. Story 38. I miss not having to overthink everything or worry about what others will say. Life felt much simpler back then. Story 39. The lack of responsibility and Saturday morning cartoons brought a unique joy. While I can watch them anytime, there was something special about having a 6-hour block dedicated to them. Story 40. Spending the whole day outside, roaming around without a schedule or a care for the future. The only real worry was getting scolded by my mom for coming home with dirty clothes. I missed that carefree childhood and the fearless kid I used to be. Back then, I wasn't afraid of anything, picking fights without a second thought about the consequences. Story 41. My answer is a bit less concrete, but I really miss the wonder and magic you can feel about things. I wish I could recapture the feeling when watching a great Disney movie for the first time or when you receive a new toy that you have wanted for a while. As an adult, you feel shadows of those experiences, but never the true excitement of, this is the greatest thing ever. Those feelings make the lovely moments others have shared worthwhile and explain why we remember them so fondly. Story 42. Waking up in the summer and enjoying the sounds and scents from the open windows. Sitting in the creek to cool off. I mostly miss my parents, hearing their voices and feeling excited about the future. Innocence. Story 43. It's not much, but I miss being able to hit a wiffle ball over my house. I used to do that all the time. Such great memories. Story 44. Playtime with cousins and friends is always enjoyable. The excitement of watching a movie on a VHS tape, without a trailer or review skewing my expectations, adds to the experience. Visits to the cities were more thrilling, with no crazy traffic and the joy of going to a movie in a large theater rather than a multiplex. Story 45. Lack of judgment. I could ask kids to play with me and most would be happy. If I ask some random strangers to hang out as an adult, I might appear desperate or socially inadequate. Talking with girls, goofing around with them, telling jokes, and having fun is easier in childhood. Today, if I approach a woman, I must be very careful about what to say and when to invite her. Otherwise, it is easy to feel like a creep. As kids, we are not judged by our looks, opinions, professions, hobbies, or political stances. We are just kids. We may differ to a certain degree in personality, but otherwise most children tend to be on the same level. Story 46. My granny. My mother had us young, 20 for me and 22 for my brother. After splitting with my father, she wanted the freedom to go out with her friends and explore her hobbies. I think she basically thought, I'm 24, have 2 kids, and am already divorced. I want to do the things that people in their 20s do. How it seemed to us was that while she didn't dislike us, we majorly cramped her style. Enter my granny. She was the kindest, most stable and consistent lady. She never freaked out or yelled. We always felt safe and loved. She didn't say, I love you much at all. The times I remember were rare occasions, like when I had an operation, right before they took me to the operating room. But we still knew she loved us because she tucked us in at night, quietly made our favorite meals, and treats on our birthdays and special occasions, and was just always there. It would be my birthday, and I'd wake up to pancakes and hot chocolate. We lived with her from when I was 4 until I was 15. By then, my mother had remarried and wanted us to live with her. That went okay for a minute, but it was hard for my brother and me because Prior to this, we had been the center of my granny's world as long as I could remember. My mother was super into playing the good wife and stepmother to her husband's daughter. Things were just not fair. For example, both my stepsister and my actual brother needed braces. Only my stepsister got them. Since she was only at our house for weekends, everything had to be her way. One time, my mother even took money I had made from my part-time job to give my stepsister spending money for some class trip. It wasn't an insignificant amount like $20. To this day, my mother believes she had every right to do that because I lived in her house and she was providing food, electricity, and heat. So I supposedly owed her. I booked it back to my granny's and stayed there from then on. I could cite a million comparisons, but I can sum it up by saying that life with my granny was calm and normal, probably how children should be raised. The year I lived just with my mother and her new family was the opposite. My stepfather hated my brother for some reason, and that was always hanging over our heads. My mother was too busy kissing his and his daughter's rear ends. There were no consistent meals or mealtimes. Sometimes my mother would make dinner for everyone, and sometimes just for her and my stepfather. Or they would go out for dinner and leave my brother and me home. I understand that by that time I could cook for us myself, but at my granny's house we had dinner at 5:30 p.m. without fail every day of my life. Another whole issue is that my mother and stepfather would say the most hurtful things you might think but shouldn't say. My brother was a solid C student, likely due to an undiagnosed learning disability, and he just wasn't that into school and studying. It was often said that he wasn't as smart as me and my stepsister, that he wouldn't amount to much. They wouldn't save for his college because it would be a waste. My mother never paid for so much as a pencil for either of us. What she said about me still hurts my stomach to this day. When I was 12, there was an incident with one of her boyfriends. I'll spare you the details, except to say that because of what he did, he went to prison for 5 years, and after he got out, he had a restraining order so he couldn't come near me. Because of how everything went down, my mother was investigated by child services over it as well. My mother's stance was, and still is to this day, that I brought it on myself, that it was my fault she was investigated and that I acted out of jealousy because she had a boyfriend. She would say this to anyone that would listen and dragged it out for years, throwing it in my face what I had done to her well into my 20s whenever we would argue. In summary, I miss my granny. She was the best. She made my life bearable when it wasn't, and good almost all the time. I was so lucky to have her because my mother is toxic, mean, and hateful, and it would have been so much harder if my granny hadn't been there. Story 47. I miss the randomness of grocery and convenience stores. Each one was unique, offering different products. Now they have become standardized, filled with the same monotonous items. The only time something new appears is when a major brand launches a new product. Story 48. I miss the randomness of grocery and convenience stores. Each one was unique, offering different products. Now they are all standardized, featuring the same uninteresting items. The only time something new appears is when a major brand decides to introduce a new product. Story 49. Shows like Family Ties, Growing Pains, The Facts of Life, Punky Brewster, A Different World, and The Cosby Show. Story 50. Saturday morning cartoons. Waking up, getting some cereal, and watching cartoons for hours. Good times. Story 51. I miss when social media was genuine. I remember when Instagram was just a platform for sharing nice photos. Now it's a source for advertisements and news. I recall when Snapchat was first released, and now it tries too hard to emulate TikTok. I miss Vine. No one was trying to make videos for money or influence. It was just pure creativity. Story 52. My granddad. I miss going outside with him, talking about nothing, running errands with him, and walking to the corner store. Story 53. Christmas morning at Grandma's house with Grandpa too, and the entire family. We had to wait a long time until Dad woke up so we could film all the kids and grandkids coming down the stairs. I truly had the best grandma in the world. She created the quintessential fairy tale Christmas for all of us. It was magical for the 2 weeks the whole family gathered in Pennsylvania. I swear she even made the snow fall at just the right times. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.